see
them
it
on
six.
like walking. Maybe not those ones.
All right, here we go. It is 6:30. Welcome to the October meeting of the Board of Education. Welcome to our guest. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Do we have anyone for open forum?
We do not, sir.
Perfect.
Hi. Could I say something during open forum?
You should, it has to be on the agenda.
It does, okay. So you tricked me into coming in here?
Did-
I'm just kidding. I was gonna say something about junior high girls basketball, but, I can come in maybe, the next time and sign up for open forum so I can tell you about junior high girls basketball.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Corrections? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same? Any discussion on bills?
Had a couple of really good questions, by the way. I appreciate it. You guys are being thorough looking through.
There were a lot of corrections this
Reversals.
time, reversals. What was that about?
We do have quite a bit of disputed, with having so many credit cards in our district.
Yeah.
We do have a lot of fraudulent charges that get out and about, and that just comes from us using our cards a little bit everywhere. We're a little bit less secure than some districts that only have 1, 2, or 3. And so
Yeah.
as a result, our stuff gets out there. When we audit those each month, then we contest those and
Okay.
they're credited back.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the transfer and payment of bills?
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer and payment of bills.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Reports, high school.
Good evening. So to start off, I wanted to talk about culture because of course we had our first fall homecoming. It was amazing. I was super proud of all of our staff and students, especially a big shout out to Robin Baker. She pretty much spearheaded the whole thing. She did an amazing job. I thought her parade was awesome. So next year we're just gonna keep getting bigger and better. I thought the kids did an amazing job with their shopping carts and their floats, so I was really, really proud of them. So it was a great event. Lots of traditions started and we're gonna keep going. I love it. So then for our procedures, we've been doing a lot of, our teachers have been going out, talking to parents this first quarter, talking about any students that are falling below average, trying to get those students into our tutoring programs and different areas of supports as we go. We're gonna let our parents know, especially at the middle school, as the quarter reports come out and we start parent-teacher conferences next week, that any students that do have 2 or more Fs at the middle school level, by the end of the school year, we're gonna be recommending them to come to summer school. So that's gonna be something that we're gonna roll out every single time we have our quarterly reports, so the parents are aware, but we're also gonna let them know that the teachers are here for them. We have our tutoring program set in place and different things that we can do to support them along the way. We've had a lot of great PD in the last couple months. We've had a great group come in to do some PD for our staff. They're called map books is what we're starting to use for our curriculum. It's got a lot of pieces with rigor, a lot of map testing, resources and different things in those books. The presenters came in from the company, presented to our staff, and they really talked about rigor, looking at our testing, looking at our curriculum. We're gonna really add a lot of that in the next year or so as we look at those pieces. We also had an amazing ACT presenter come in. He actually came in from ACT, showed us how to look at our data, gave us some pointers what we can do in the next year to help our students raise those scores. And he's gonna be a great resource that I had no idea was out there until I met him at one of my conferences. So he's gonna come in a lot this year, work with me and Shannon both to see what we can do to raise our ACT scores. So that was a really, really great PD we had there. So then on to our main event for the evening is our map data. So looking at some of our MAP and our EOC testing data, we are aware that some of our areas did fall below where we want them to be. We have met with our teachers. We've already analyzed our data. We've owned it. we said, you know what, guys, this is what we did last year. What are we gonna do to change this for the future? We're already looking at some instructional strategies to use in the classroom. We're digging deep into our item analysis that we get back from these tests. We're really excited because at the high school level, we haven't gotten any item analysis for EOCs. This year, they actually gave it to us. And what that means is it gives us kind of an idea of what standards our students are low in, so we can actually hit those hard in the classroom. And then we're also gonna look, like I said, with our math books and different things, we're gonna look at the rigor of our different instructional strategies. I believe that's a piece that we're missing too, that we're gonna look at in the next year to see if we can bump that up so that our rigor is making sure that we're matching a lot of that map testing questions, if I can get the right word there, and our EOC questions. So we've got some stuff in place that we've already got plans to address a lot of the issues that you're gonna see in some of these slides. So let's start with our 6th grade map testing. Do you mind if I steal your clicker? Would you mind if I borrow it? You're awesome. Down? Down goes forward, all right. So with our 6th grade data here, our students actually, so what you're looking at is, I don't know why my 2003 moved, but it decided to move on me. This is comparing our 6th graders from 2023 to our 6th graders last year. So this is 2 different groups of students, but they're all the 6th grade groups. So when you look at 6th graders from 2023 to 2024, we did go up by 5%. Now, are those scores where I want them yet? No. But looking at from 2023 to 2024, if you look at that below basic, we've taken a lot of those kiddos and we've started moving them up towards the advanced. So if you look at 2023, some of those below basics have now moved up to basic. So we're moving in the right direction, and that's what we're gonna keep working on for the next year. The next slide you're gonna see, this is our comparison of all of our 6th graders over the years. The bottom is our state average. Now that's the state average in 2024 currently. They don't actually finalize those state averages until December because schools can still appeal some of their testing scores. So that's what they have now. Usually it stays the same. So right now we are at 27% and the state is at 38. If you look at our data going across, and you'll see this on every single slide you see, there's almost like a cliff there from 2021 to 22. You're gonna see that on every single grade level. That's where COVID was. So you can definitely see that break when students were at home, they weren't getting quality instruction from teachers. You'll definitely see that. Then when you look at the next slide, this is comparing one group to their next grade level. So this is our 5th grade scores, and then what they did in 6th grade. So this is comparing the same group of students. So we did go down by 8%, but whenever you look at that 8%, not making excuses or anything, but just pointing out that that's 3 students when you look at 8%. So our goal is to look at some of those bubble students. When we think of bubble, those are some of the kids that were really close from going from basic to proficient or below basic to basic. We're gonna really focus on some of those students to see if we can bump them up to the next level. Then we go into our math. So again, I don't know why my 2023, it was over there when I was in my office a while ago. It decided to move. So that's our group of 6th graders, 2023 to 2024. We did go down by 15%. This is a new teacher this year. She's moved to the actual content that she was actually trained in. So when we look at these scores here, to me, that's a lot of rigor. So this year, I'm gonna be working with her a lot in the classroom to make sure that she has that rigor she needs. And we're gonna look again at the map testing questions and make sure that our questions we're asking in the classroom are matching them. Because to me, sometimes our students, it's not that they don't know the answers, but whenever they see a question on the map test that hasn't matched what we've been teaching all year long, it's not they don't know it, they're just like, whoa, this question doesn't look like what I'm used to. So we're gonna try to match our questions a lot this year so our students see exactly what they're gonna get on that test. And then these are the 6th grade scores across the board. And then this is our same group of kiddos. So from 5th grade to 6th grade, when you look at this slide, this group of students only went down 2%, so only by 1 student. So I like to look at these a lot better because you're comparing one group of kiddos because sometimes a group comes through and they're just a little lower, or they might be a little higher. So I like to compare one group to that same group because you're not comparing apples to oranges as much. And then we have our 7th grade ELA. So our scores in ELA did go down a little bit on this one. So that's something that we're gonna be looking at for this next school year. Again, this group here, they are split between 2 different teachers. So most of our classes, they get 1 instructor. This one has 2. So one thing I'm gonna ask these teachers to do is really work hard together. Again, look at that rigor in the classroom, look at their instruction, make sure that we match it, and try to bump those kiddos up. And then that's where we are. And if you look at the state average too, I mean, yes, we are going down by quite a bit, but the state average is also trending in that downward slope as well.
Can you talk a little bit, I know you showed me earlier some of the comparison data. So you had looked at some of our local schools that are in our conference now, or just adjacent to us.
I did. So earlier today, I actually was digging into the DESE website, and I compared us to other schools such as like Bell, New Bloomfield, South Callaway. When you look at our scores by themselves like this, you might be like, ooh. But when you look at our scores compared to the other schools, we are very comparable to schools of our same size. So all schools in our area are facing challenges like teachers who are not certified in the area they're teaching, or just students not coming in with what they need. So we're all facing the same challenges, and we are very similar to schools in our area at the same size. And this is a comparison of the groups in the same cohort, the same group of kiddos from 5th, 6th to 7th grade. We are going back in that upward slide, so we're hoping to continue that for this next school year. And then with our 7th grade math data, so this one did go down 22%. Again, I'm thinking this one is the rigor again. This one, it's 2 different teachers that share this group of kiddos. What I want them to do is work together to try to bump up that rigor, really look at some of those kiddos that need the extra supports, really analyze that data that we're getting from the MAP test, and see where we need to hit those kiddos the hardest. And then looking at comparisons from every year along the way, and then our state average as well. And if you look there, we're not as far away from the state average as you would have thought by looking at the previous slide. And then this is that same cohort of students. So they did go down by 7%, which is about 3 students is where they ended up this year. Next year, we're gonna really look at that instruction, look at what we're doing in the classroom, find out where they're the lowest, hit that hard, and make sure our kiddos can go in the right direction. And then we had 8th grade ELA. I wanna make sure and give props to our ELA teacher. She has been doing a phenomenal job in the classroom. She's went to a lot of PD this last year, looked at some resources, and I'm very impressed with her scores. If you look at this one, it looks like we went down by 1%, but if you look at the numbers we had in 2023, there were 48 kids there. 2024, we only had 41. So truthfully, looking at the numbers, we came out about the same. So the students stayed steady. And looking at our numbers here, we ended up being above the state average in ELA for our 8th grade group, which I was really, really proud of their hard work. And then looking at their scores along the way, they started off low. Each year, this group has bumped up a little bit every single year. So we're hoping that they can be, these are our current 9th graders right now. So hopefully we'll grab them in the high school and keep them going. And then looking at our math data, again, we went down by 13%, but again, looking at those numbers, this one has 47 students, this one has 40. So once you look at those numbers, it skews it just a little bit there. But when you look at our state average, we're still well above the state average in our 8th grade math. So the state average is 42, we're at 61. So I'm very pleased with our numbers whenever we get to that math. And looking at our numbers with the same cohort of students as they came along, they've stayed about the same, which 61% is very, very good. And with our 8th grade science data, you will notice that it did go down quite a bit. We did have to move a teacher into science because we moved a teacher out of science who was certified in math to teach our math. So she is not currently in that these students need. And we're gonna support her a lot this year. I'm gonna make sure I'm in her classroom to make sure that she gets what she needs to help these kiddos go in the right direction. And looking at our numbers here, it seems like, the state kind of wavers. But again, we're gonna bump that one up. And we don't have any comparison data for this one because the students did not take this in middle school. They take it in 8th grade, and then 5th grade is the last time they took it. So we don't have any comparison data. So then we're moving into our 9th grade data, which is our EOC testing. which is a little bit different than map testing. To me, the EOCs are a little bit harder than our map testing would be. We're very, very, very pleased with our numbers in 9th grade. Our teacher did a phenomenal job. She went in and looked at some different resources, some cooperative learning, really did some more practice with these kiddos, and she went up 22% this year. So I was very impressed with their scores. And if you look at the state average, we really haven't been, I mean, we've been below the state average quite a bit. We're teetering right there with it. We're definitely above the state average in 9th grade math this year on our EOC. And looking at a comparison from the students as they went along in the years, we did go down in percentages, but this is the 75% is the map test. The 57 is the EOC test. And again, it's a little bit more rigorous than the map test is. So that makes sense there why that dropped. And with our 10th grade government, we did go up 2% this year. We bumped it up just a little bit from last year, which is really great. And then looking at the state averages, the state average did go up, but so did we, so we're only 2% away. Whenever you look in the past, we were quite a bit, there was a bigger gap. So we're slowly closing that gap, and hopefully this next year we'll be right on track with that state average as our goal. And then with our 10th grade biology 1, we went up 4% from last year, which is really great. We did have a few more kids that kind of bumped down to that below basic, so that's something we want to look at this year to see if we can get those kids back up, but we did have a few more go up in that advanced and proficient. And then we're at 45%, so we are above the state average for our biology 1. And then our English 2, we did go down from 2023 to 24, 5%. But that, again, looking at our numbers, that's about 2 students going from proficient to basic is what that looks like. And looking at our scores, we're teetering right there with the state average. We went down just a little bit, but our goal is next year to try to get back up there right there with them. And then looking at our ACT data, so I had the graduation rate up there at the top. And this year, we did go up to 18.6%, so we're slowly creeping back up to where we want to be. We don't have a state average yet for the ACT. Hopefully that'll be coming out later in December. But the interesting thing is, what I did, because I'm like, well, I want to look at some other data. So what I did, this is our class of 2025, the students who will be graduating in the spring. All students, as their junior year, we pay for them to take the ACT. So every single student, doesn't matter whether they're going to go to a 4-year college or they're just going to go out and join the workforce. Every student takes the ACT. So I was curious what the scores would be if we divided it up into what their plan is after high school. So if you had those 4-year college students, their average ACT score is a 22. So, and then looking at that workforce, military, or just getting a certification, theirs is a 15. So to me, having all those students take the ACT, whether they're going into, furthering their education or they're just going into the workforce, I think it does skew our ACT scores just a little bit. But something we're doing new this year, all of our freshmen, we're gonna pay for them to take the pre-ACT. So hopefully we can get a little bit more data as freshmen that we can use their sophomore year to hopefully bump up those ACT scores the next year. So then my plans, because we definitely have some plans. Now granted, I've only gotten to meet with my teachers to work on these plans for about 3 times this year. We meet every month to look at our data, see what we can do to use it to drive instruction, and that's gonna be our goal this year. Our teachers are really great at looking at the data, but this year we have to be intentional about taking that data and putting it into place in our classroom every single day, every single week. And my job is gonna be getting in those classrooms with them and making sure that this is being done every day in the classroom. Whether it's me helping them with lessons, finding resources they need, or just making sure that they have what they need to do that review and have that great instruction every single day. Then we're gonna also look at our bubble students, keep track of them, make sure in the classroom we're checking with them frequently. Sometimes those bubble students are those quiet kids in class that sometimes they get overlooked. I want my teachers to make sure that they're meeting with every single student, meet with these bubble kids 3 or 4 times more to make sure that they're getting what they need. We're gonna also evaluate our assessment and our instruction for that rigor piece. We wanna make sure that the rigor in our classroom is matching what they're gonna see on that test. We wanna make sure that they're not gonna get to that test and be like, whoa, I've never seen a question like this before. We wanna make sure they're confident going in. We're also gonna make sure we have a 2-week intense review right before that MAP test, make sure they have that in there. We wanna increase student engagement and make sure that we're utilizing every single minute of class. If you get done at the end of class with 15 minutes left, it's not gonna be, let's work on homework. Grab out some review. There's great ways that you can do Kahoots, Bookits, all kinds of other fun stuff to do review for the MAP test in the classroom to make sure you're utilizing every second of every minute of that class time. And then we're also gonna continue to work on our quality curriculum. We've just started working on our curriculum about 2 years ago. We're only probably about, oh gosh, maybe a third of the way through that. And we're gonna evaluate that rigor piece also. I believe that that's one of our pieces we're missing. Not that our staff is not doing a great job instructing, we just wanna bump that rigor up so it matches that MAP test and EOC that we have. So I know that was a lot of information for you thrown out at you, a lot of numbers. So what kind of questions do you have for me?
I want to commend you on that plan right there that answered every single question I have.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Appreciate your efforts. And you're to be commended, and our staff is too, because our ACT score has gone up 2 years in a row. And that would be directly indicative of the fact that we are concerning ourselves more with rigor in the classroom and concerning ourselves more with teacher engagement of students. And I know that that's an emphasis of yours. I know that.
Yes.
But like it's working. So anyway.
And it's a slow
Good job.
process.
Good
It is
job
a
there,
slow
young lady.
process. Any other questions?
Do you think that our length of time in the classroom, I'm trying to find a way to phrase this best. Do you think that if we had more classroom hours in our school year, would that make a difference as far as opportunities for repetition?
I don't know if it's the amount of hours that we have. To me, it's the quality instruction that they get in the classroom and what kind of instruction they're getting. And again, I just want to work on that rigor this year and make sure that the instruction they're getting is at that higher level and that they are getting that practice during the school day. I don't know, and I'd have to actually go out and actually look at the data and do some research on that piece of it. But I think I want to work on the data, or the rigor, and looking at our data first before we actually worry about adding more hours.
Sure.
I've absolutely thought about that too.
Well, I was looking at between 19 and 20, somewhere in there,
There you
we
go.
made the move. And you don't know
There you go.
if it's COVID or if
See,
it's
that's
the
the
4-day
thing.
school week. But
Preach.
then,
You can't-
but then you mentioned,
It's like-
you mentioned the other schools in the area are having the same thing. Could you go back and parse that data out by which schools are 5-day week and 4-day week?
Yes, because
and
actually,
see
I
if
just
there's
had a meeting
trend?
with our conference schools, and we're about split down the middle. In our conference, about 4 of them are 4-day school weeks, 4 are 5-day school weeks. So I can go back in and grab some of those and show you some data on the 4-day school weeks and the 5-day school weeks.
That might be interesting to see if there's something there.
And is there or is there not?
We all
Yeah, I
had,
don't know.
we all had COVID.
For
Exactly.
Sure.
And like I said, just by looking at the basic data from last year in just 4 schools, we're hanging right in there with all of them. And I know New Bloomfield, I think, is a 4-day school week,
Yes.
and South Callaway is a 5.
Mhm.
And those were 2 of them that I compared to.
So I'm also curious, since COVID is part of all of this, one of the things I felt from my children that struggled with was going straight to using computer for most things instead of writing and physically putting something down on paper and using that motion to help memorize something. So I kind of feel like, it's so many different things, like they had to change their style of learning and everything.
Absolutely.
So-
And there's a lot of things in education that did have to change due to COVID, and even in our own lives. Heck, I like to go order out more than go into a restaurant. All those are kind of crazy things, and education felt that too.
Other questions?
I appreciate all of the data, and yeah, I would be curious to see that split down the middle in our conference schools. That would be, I know that will take time to get, but I would really appreciate that.
Absolutely. I'll make sure that by the next board meeting, I'll have all that ready and be able to present that to you guys.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much. You are ready for our questions. Superintendent report.
Had a pretty good month. I'll double up on the homecoming parade week. I think that went really well. A lot of positive feedback from patrons, parents. I love that we had our elementary involved in the parade also. That was really good to see them out there. We've got parent-teacher conferences coming up the 24th. It's the 24th, right?
Yep.
Had a lot of great comments from our patrons and visitors, by the way, not just for our sport and athletic events, but also for our community events. I think that's a positive. In personnel and staffing, we're struggling. What I'm finding, and I kind of already knew this, is we're struggling in the same ways as everyone is across the state. As a matter of fact, recruitment and retention was second only to the legislative session and policy and law at mayor this week. It is what everybody is talking about, and they hit it in general session straight out of the box. Professional development, I think you figured this out between our two principals. We're focused instructionally on professional development, and we're gonna keep our emphasis there. Facilities-wise, we just have a lot going on, continuing bond, furniture discussions, everything that goes along with that, but also local projects that we're doing in routine maintenance. We'll be moving inside here shortly, and Cliff and the gang will get a little bit of a break from cutting grass. Have several teams that are finishing up and going into the postseason. I'm sure we're gonna have some decent postseason games I'd love to see you guys at. Band and choir is working really hard also. Got some great comments about band, and between Mr. Pierce and Ms. Sassman and me, we're talking about doing an alumni band for homecoming next year. I think that's gonna have a lot of interest. Kind of do a pet band at our homecoming game. And budget and finance, we'll talk a little bit about the audit later in the agenda, but it went really well. We're doing fine there. I did notice in the paper yesterday, Senate Bill 190 has come up with our commissioners, which is a tax break for our residents 62 and older. That'll have an impact on our local revenues. And so I've reached out to Brooke Dudenheffer there at the office, and she's been really attentive, and I think I'll get an answer back what the impact might be. But it would be, I don't think it's gonna be terribly significant. Future budget pressures, you know, still the $40,000 base. We have to be worrying about our salary and benefits for staff. There is a provision in there that increases 3% annually, which we've been working on that steadily, but there'll be a mandate to do that. A lot of election outcomes coming our way, which will change kind of the management and leadership of DESE and our state offices. So for that, we will be estimating our ADA this year, because our free and reduced lunch threshold moved from about 32% down to just under 17%. So I think our formula payment will be slightly stronger than it has been in the past. And then we have reassessment year coming up next year. That'll be a big one for us. And another change in our actual formula rate will go up about another $400 per student. So we should be looking strong going into next year. And again, my emphasis will be in salaries and benefits for our teaching staff.
Any questions?
I wanted to say I received a lot of feedback about homecoming and people enjoying that, and then also I was at the large cross-country meet that we host, and there were a lot of people that were pretty complimentary about our grounds and the condition of them. Additionally, I was at a club. We had a club football game, and there were some parents from Elias that were down, and they were asking a lot of questions about everything with our field and our track and everything, and they were very complimentary. Which is good to hear.
Very good. All right, action items, summer journey program.
So we contract out for our summer school curriculum, and we do that through Journeys. We typically pay about $725 per student. We have 3 options for a 1, 2, and 3 year renewal. The 3 year is just a $5 increase, which is very reasonable. 2 year would be a $25 per student increase, and 1 year would be a $50 per student increase. Honestly, I would like to move away, and that's what I told our Journey rep eventually, from Journeys, because we need to do more targeted instruction in the summer. But if I do that, I'm really gonna distract our staff from the curriculum work that they're doing on our general curriculum, and I don't wanna do that. It's gonna take a year or 2 to finish that up, and another year to create a summer school curriculum. So my recommendation is that we go ahead and renew for 3 years, and I think we'll be ready to transition at that time.
Questions? none, can I get a motion to renew the summer journey program for 3 years?
I move we sign a 3-year contract with the Summer Journey program.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Budget transfer?
Yeah, so we do need to do a budget transfer. I'd like to do a budget transfer for our yearbook account. Essentially, yearbook sales have dropped from 200 all the way down to we're anticipating about 80 district-wide this year. As a result, that's not something new to this year. It's been declining for the last several years. However, we still continue to pour resources into that. I feel like if we can get that account flush, then we'll give our new yearbook representative a fighting chance to do something with that program. And right now, it is almost negative $16,000. So I would just like to make that flush as of July 1 to give Mrs. Hasselog and her staff an opportunity to run their own program.
Questions? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the budget transfer?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget transfer.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Discussion items, health insurance.
All right, I won't go too much into details. I give you guys a lot of numbers. Our insurance provider is growing, and we have not experienced any increases over the last couple of years. You can see kind of the participation numbers there. We recently had a quarterly meeting. They weren't exactly sure if they were able to predict accurately an increase to our programming for this year, which will be in the spring. I do, however, anticipate just on the language that was used that we'll experience a 1 to 3% increase in those programs. When we get an actual solid number, I'll come back to you guys. We have one of 3 options there to pass along that fee increase to our staff, mitigate it somehow, or just cover it entirely. I'm going to lean towards recommending we cover any increase entirely as a way to kind of insulate our staff from those increased costs. And that'll be included in my budget proposal next spring.
All right. Audit preliminaries.
So we've done really good. And by we, I mean Chelsea and Miss Elaine Deacon and Paula Kaywood over the last several years. Our auditors probably could have been out of the building by 1 o'clock, but they went and took a lunch, and because they were scheduled with us all day anyway. We had some ancillary things, some minor coding type things, but they were very complimentary. Our cash receipts are reconciled every single month. I know Chelsea, Miss Miller does that. They really appreciated that and how we lined out the audit process for them. Going to be very minimal. I really was hoping to pull that off of the December agenda, so that would be a little faster, but they can't quite get it back to us fast enough, so we'll have to wait to December, but I anticipate us doing very, very well.
Perfect. Sounds good. Second reading of Regulation 4504.
So 4504 raises the number of years that we'll allow our teaching staff to bring in from 10 to 20. And this is the second reading for that, and if there are no objections, we'll be voting on that and putting it into policy, and then we'll make the payroll adjustment after our board meeting next month.
All right. Any questions, any discussion? Very good. Bus procedure. You have a recommendation?
I do. So in the notes for the board book, you'll see policy 5670 was our main issue. It specifically outlined that we would only provide transportations for students to and from school or district educational purposes. So I added that line that's underlined in your board notes. And the line reads, the superintendent or designee will create a procedure to accommodate alternate transportation requests under the following conditions. No additional cost to the district, cannot create an undue burden to operations, ensures the safety of all students and staff. And that would be buttressed by a procedural adjustment that would allow 6th through 12th graders to request an alternate bus stop 1 week ahead of time, and their parents would sign off on that. The 1 week will help guard us against just impromptu and sudden emergency changes, which would create an undue operation burden. It would limit it to our residency route. It would be 6 through 12, which is developmentally appropriate. Those students can choose when and which bus stop to get off of, and the signed permission slip would protect us in terms of liability. So I think between those two adjustments to policy, we would no longer be violating policy, and the procedural adjustment, I think we can move on.
I do have a question.
Sure.
So I totally understand the 6th through 12th grade, but a few of the people that are wanting to be dropped off at St. George have a couple of younger siblings as well, so that would exclude those children, even though they have a 6th to 12th grader that they would be getting off the bus with, or like how would we address, because those concerns are going to be raised, I'm afraid.
How comfortable do you feel placing the direct supervision of K through 5 students, potentially, under a 6th grader? That would be for you guys to decide. We're adjusting based
I'm
off.
just saying, like if they were siblings, they're already kind of doing that if they drop them off at home, so I don't know. I'm just saying that that's probably going to come up at some point.
I mean, I would say that would fall within this as long as it's been addressed by the parents. When they sign the form and they explain it 1 week in advance that this is what's gonna happen, I think that falls within these guidelines, maybe.
That they would be able to stay with.
Yeah, with their older sibling.
Right.
I'll create a checkbox in there that says with siblings, list siblings, and then we'll just use
Right,
that.
right, yeah,
I appreciate your willingness to find a compromise.
thank you.
Further discussion? All right. Bus procedure is first read. Independent instructional coaches.
As I've just talked about, and Aaron talked about quite a bit, our professional development focus and emphasis is on instruction. One of the highest yield strategies for that is one-on-one instruction, a observation, feedback, and adjustment model. I would not prioritize the hiring of full-time instructional coaches at this point, but I do believe if we go to market, we can set aside some money to work directly with our teachers, to just be a non-evaluative, hey, what are you working on this year? They come in, observe, provide feedback, and provide support. Just looking at our areas of emphasis in our data, and then use that as a continuous improvement and professional development model on the teacher-by-teacher basis. One thing with everything that we're trying to do, there is no way that Aaron can spend or Cammie can spend hours every day just doing one-on-one, and that's not even built into our teachers' schedules, even if it were. I think using this model, I think we'll see some movement, and we'll prioritize the areas that our students are struggling most and provide the support there. I don't know what we would want to pay them per se, but I would like to put out a posting out and see what people were interested in doing it for, and then let the market dictate what we would pay them. Now, of course, I wouldn't say, well, you want $100,000 and just say, okay, we're gonna pay you. I would bring that back to you guys and make a recommendation there. But I'd like to at least go to market and see if we can buttress our current PD model with some instructional coaching. I'm hoping that some retired teachers, some experienced teachers, maybe some people that are working in admin, would want to take a shot at now doing this in their spare time. Just working with our teachers. It's actually what our principals would love to be doing every day, but a lot of times they're chasing kids and meeting with different folks. So I'd like to try it.
Discussion?
What's the qualification for that? Like, is this a part-time, is it hourly, or is it just a full-time
It would be
position?
based on a stipend. We would probably have a
Okay.
stipend per teacher that they were working with.
This concept just started like as I quit, so it's like I'm not totally familiar with it, but it's like implemented pretty much my last year was like that. Yeah, what's the qualification for being an instructional coach?
Certified teacher, we typically like that to be at least 10 years or more in the classroom, and we want to check references and make sure they were successful at that level, if that makes sense.
Sure.
It got to you your last year, but this started at JC my second or third year, and I kind of brought that with me. So JC was the first we had in-house two instructional coaches.
This is when I was still at high school. This is not my last year or two at the high school, not last overall. It was like, but maybe we called them something else, but it was, and I'm sure that's because that's the way we do it in education. We call the same thing, different names. Over the course of time, just do that over and over. But like, it was this type of thing, and like, I'm just kind of lukewarm on this, I guess. I mean, they can be helpful, they can just be there, right? And I don't know, like, is it, again, it's like, it's kind of a nebulous, like, what's the qualification to become this, and what are they? Are they a pseudo principal? Like a
Yeah.
super teacher? What are they? What's
Hopefully
what's
we
an
get,
instructional coach?
hopefully we get super teachers that are good coaches, because not all teachers are good coaches, by the way. There are a lot of teachers that intuitively do things, and they just do it naturally.
Right.
They build relationships.
Okay, I see what you're
So they don't make great coaches in that sense. What we would like to find is somebody that was a super teacher and a really good coach, and is willing to just have older students as opposed to classrooms. What they would do is they go to Aaron and say, what are you working on here? And they would meet with Aaron and the staff and what are you guys working on? And then they would go in as a second set of eyes in the classroom and having a ton of experience, hopefully in the area that they're coaching in, and be able to support that teacher and say, what do you think about trying this? What do you think about trying this? The number one thing is that they're non-evaluative. It's different when your evaluator is telling you, try this, and do that. There can be an element of safety that isn't present, no matter how hard you try and make it safe, versus an instructional coach is just there to help. That's it. What are you working on? And I'm gonna be your coaching partner, give you a second set of eyes, and then I'm gonna give you feedback on that. You're
So,
gonna ask them.
What is their goal then? I mean, like, are they mentoring, or are we wanting them to help support us, let's say, in improving our scores? Like, what would their goal be then?
They should be doing all of those at the same time. So they should be there as a mentor, should be there as a support, and if they're doing well, we should see that reflected in our student achievement. Like, they'll do things like, we always say we don't have enough time, and we got a ton of things coming at us. So when your hair's on fire and you don't feel like you have enough time, do you judge time the same way? Research would suggest that you don't. So if you have a second set of eyes in there that said, hey, talk to me about, it took you 12 minutes to really get into what you wanted to do today. Do you plan on that 12 minutes? Or does it just fly by? And let's talk, maybe we can get down to 7 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever the case might be. And give them that. Maybe the teacher says, no, that's exactly what I wanted to do because of X, Y, and Z. I was trying to do X, Y, and Z at that time. And they go, okay, well, there's not any low-hanging fruit in there. So what do you think went well with your lesson today? What do you think didn't go well?
I mean, theoretically, they're gonna have to be an expert in the discipline, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna have to be, like math, science, something. We wanna hire someone who's been, fantastic in that, because they're gonna go ahead and work with the people who are the professionals and go, like that. I don't know, I'm just kinda skeptical that you get that type of person all the time, with that type of thing.
They're
That was
really
my
hard to
skepticism about
find,
it.
and we may not find one for a stipend, to be real honest, but I don't want that to hold me back from trying.
Yeah, I mean, like, it could work, there's no question about it. Like, I'm not saying like that the idea's like flawed, or I'm not, like that, but I'm also kinda, with regards to the implementation, is that actually gonna work out the way we want it to? I'm real skeptical of that.
In this model, I had instructional coaches as a teacher. It's a really old thing in Texas. mine was called Marlene, her name was Marlena Chelland. She just came in and would watch and say, she came to me and said, what are you working on this
Yeah.
year, Bob? And I said, these are my things I'm working on. She like, when do you wanna, how would you like me to come see you? We would talk about that, and then she would just come in and give me feedback on that. And when I got stuck, she would have 3 different things ready to go. You can choose from one of these 3, maybe they'll work for you. Or sometimes she would co-teach, sometimes she would teach while I watched her. There's a lot of different.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure it works fine if you have that type of relationship, and I get it, but like it could also be just someone wandering around and collecting a stipend too. It's not really.
I guess that was my, so I would assume even though they're not doing the evaluations, they would have to share their plan for how they think a teacher needs to improve with someone else, so that if that person is being evaluated, these are the suggestions that I think would help them
Ideally,
to become successful.
they would never share how the teacher needs to improve, how they want and need to improve, and then their job is to help the teacher. The only way this would come into that I've ever seen it in my experience, is if someone just said, I will not participate in
That was gonna be
this.
mine, because if
And
they refuse to
that-
do
That's a
anything
cultural
different.
thing. We've got to get beyond. We can't both have the results that we have and say that we don't need to work on what we're doing in the classroom. I did well always in the classroom. I benefited from this a great deal, because they're just there to take you from wherever you're at to just one step above. And the next time, they'll take you from there to one step above. It will be hard to find good ones, but I have seen this work successfully.
Would you
Are you interested?
assign teachers that just need help with scores?
Expert, you have to be an expert.
Or wholesale, everybody gets evaluated, or everybody gets observed?
Say that again?
So how are you deciding which teachers are going to be, would all of the teachers basically have this person in their classroom at some point, just to?
Now, then we would diffuse, we would take a look at, and this would be a common conversation that Aaron and Cammie would have with their staff through their evaluation process. Is this a support that you're interested in having?
Okay.
And then if it is, then they would say, okay, well, we'll connect you two and y'all can get started. How they would, about the only contact they would have, obviously they would, from an operations standpoint, they would want to know when they're around, but they would go to Cammie and Aaron and just say, what's going on? What's going well? What do you think your staff does well? What do you think your staff has an opportunity to improve on? Then they would be waiting to say, Mr. Minix would like to speak with you, and connect Mr. Minix with the instructional coach. Then after that, the teacher reports out what's going on with the instructional coach, just as a matter of their regular evaluation. Like Aaron might know that they're working with Chris, and say, okay, well, how's it going? Coach Phillips is your instructional coach. How is that going? Beneficial? What's working for you? What's not? And then they would have that conversation. And that would be how we would evaluate whether our instructional coaches, in terms of progress monitoring, are being successful. The ultimate would be whether or not those scores move.
Further questions? All right. On budget update.
Oh, budget, bond budget.
Well, good evening. Again, my name is Matt Nye with Navigate Building Solutions. Along with me to present, we got Tanner Smith with Bond Architects, and we're here to give you an update on how things are rolling along with the bond project. Currently still in design, and we are now reached our design development milestone. So that was a package of drawings and specifications, some narratives from the design team that was delivered to Navigate at the end of September. We take that and put our best foot forward for a estimate based on those drawings and assumptions and everything. So this is just to give you a kind of update on where we're at with design, path moving forward, and what the expectations are with schedule after that. So again, we'll give you guys an update on the updates on the design tonight, also projected budget costs and where we're at, remaining schedule, and then any comments or questions that you guys have after that. So efforts to dates, so we have been working closely with staff over the last couple months since our last update with schematic design, trying to get work out some more of the details, have some user group meetings here and there, working into getting some finishes selected nowadays. Geotech reporting, I was just updating that geotech investigation have been complete. We have a geotech evaluation report, so that's, the engineers use that for designing the structure, and civil engineers use that as well. And other than that, like I mentioned, the design development phase is complete at the end of September, and we've established our construction grade estimate based on those drawings. With that, why don't we move into the drawings?
Good evening, Tanner Smith with Bond Architects. I will try and be swift and just cover the highlights of things that have changed between our last presentation, and then maybe give any time if you guys have questions. It's a floor plan of the new addition for the high school. Again, the administrative wing is in the top left, or the northwest, and then the 9 classroom block is the main portion of the building. One of the big changes is we discovered the true grade difference between the existing high school and the ag building, which this building is connecting between. So it's about 4 feet, pretty significant drop. To accommodate the connecting corridor on the top, or at the north end, is going to have a slight sloped ramp, so that the floor plate for the new addition is 1 foot below the floor plate for the existing high school. And then in the bottom right corner, we have a secure corridor that's also acting to make up the remainder of the difference. So we have a short stair and a handicap accessible switchback ramp to accommodate the difference in grade. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. In the corridor, a minor change is we've been able to carve out some extra space for a single user staff restroom, so that they do not have to travel all the way from their classrooms to the admin wing. And that's directly adjacent to the janitor's closet and the student restroom. And then the biggest update would be the slight redesign to the entry vestibule into the admin wing. We took your all's very good comments from the last board meeting about safety and security, and just the movement of visitors and students through the space. The door between the secure entry vestibule and the classroom corridor has been pulled out, so that we can now allow a separate door between the admin wing and offices to the classroom corridor and classroom spaces. That way, students that have already made it past the secure perimeter can interact with the security office through a secure transaction or pass-through window, and then on a very, very limited basis, if the need arises, a student can access the admin through this door. And then on the flip side, any administrators can access the corridor without having to go through the less secure entry vestibule. Again, we'll have secure buzz-in buttons and AI phones at the main entrance that will bring them in. Any visitors will have the opportunity to interface with the reception through a secure transaction window. We've beefed up the security of this wall so that the transaction window and the wall construction are bullet and forced entry resistant. And we will also apply bullet resistant safety film to any glazing that exists on the entry doors, or any glazing that exists as vision lights in between the doors in the lobby and the hallway. So again, that was really, really good feedback from the last meeting. So we hope that these changes address all of the safety and security concerns. Anybody coming in should be able to just discuss what they need with the reception, and then turn around and leave in a very, very limited basis. They'll be granted access to the student side. These are elevations. They're very, very similar to the elevations that we presented a couple months ago. The This is an updated site plan. On the right, you can see our building footprint as a connecting corridor. The slight changes we're gonna have to make to the existing parking lot. And then what was also decided upon as one of the alternates is to regrade this area next to the northwest part of the campus at a parking lot that is 120 spaces, closest to the existing athletics. Thank you. Any questions about the?
Thanks, Tina. All right, so moving into how those changes and just the updated drawings affected our construction cost and our projected construction cost. So last time we were at schematic design, so that we had our original budget, and schematic design was back in August. So now that we are at about an 80% complete of design at this stage, we took those documents, put our estimate to it. We're trending a little under budget. Big factor there was we did take out some of the site work. As you saw, we added the 120 space parking lot on the northwest side, but the south side service drive and the southwest parking lot, we're going to let the state tech folks bring those up to grade. We do have some funds down in the finance section. The reason that went up, just in case the district has to incur any cost with gravel, for grading those lots out. So we did set aside a little bit of cost there to kind of offset that. But our number right now is coming in $7.5 million for construction. We do have contingencies, to get us to bid day and beyond bid day. So escalation cost of 2%, the 10% contingency, to break that down, right around 5% of that is what we're figuring to get us that last 20% of design to get us to bid day. Just from any fluctuations there could be with scope changes between now and then. And then we always try to recommend new build, 5% of that 10 would end up being what we carry into construction. So 5% contingency after bid day, it'll be an owner-controlled contingency that we'll have in our back pocket. The rest of this, special construction, that went down. I think there was 10,000 we had for some minor abatement, but we determined there really wasn't a need for any of that, so we took that out. FF&E budget for furniture at $325. Professional services, technology. We talked about the finance and the land acquisition, so some of that lease purchase projects that have been going on, we have in that bucket. And then just some miscellaneous advertisement costs. So at the end of the day, 10.7 is down, a little bit from our last estimate at 1109. Feeling really good with the budget. I think we're trending with our total budget after bond premiums and proceeds closer to that 11.9, maybe a little bit more than that. So we're still quite a bit under budget at this point, which is obviously a good thing at this point. We do have some bid alternates baked in that we'll put in with the bid that could allow the district some buying power if we had some savings. Some of those are actually resurfacing the existing parking lot here. It sounded like that was potentially a need. Also the northwest parking lot, either chip and seal that gravel or just to completely just make that asphalt to match the existing. So those are some bid day alternates that we could carry that you'd have buying options to purchase at that time. Other than that, any questions with budget? So schedule moving forward, Like I said, we're about that 80% complete, so we're moving into the construction document phase, which will, be our bid documents. So over the next few months, Bond is gonna be, coordinating all the final drawings with their consultants, getting that ready for bidding, which is projected in January. You have bids received in February, so the idea would be to come to the February board meeting with a contractor recommended to start the project. So construction would start then in the spring, go through into the summer 26, and hopefully have a brand new space to move into. Aaron's excited. Everybody else? Any questions with schedule? All right. With that, any other questions Mayor Chainer can help with?
We have quite a bit of pad broken or baked into that. Our 10% contingency, the finance land section down there went from 650 to 900, which will allow us some flexibility to buy materials for our kind of localized projects. So that will be coming out of our general fund or our existing local. And so I think we'll get toward the end of these projects and have some decisions to be made. And by the end, I mean, we're gonna have to make the decisions before the end, but as we draw closer to the end, like the asphalting, some upgraded lining, some security cameras in the parking lot, that sort of thing, we should be in a very good position to accentuate our projects. And everything up there, to give you an idea, is we're very conservative in estimating our revenues from bond sales and investments. So that 11.1, I think we're gonna look even better by the time we get halfway into this project, and we'll get to make some of those more fun decisions.
And we have an engineer hired to do HVAC design for the field house.
Matt and I have discussed that. I sent that company name to you, and that's something that I'd like to talk to you about a little bit more before we put it in front of the group.
Very good. Questions? Looks like we're moving along.
Yeah. We're
Yeah,
good.
excited. All right.
Thank you.
Very much.
All right. As easy as you've ever gotten off.
Savor the flavor.
Thank you, gentlemen. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? The next regular meeting will be November 21st, 2024, at the same time. It does remind me, I think I'm out of town that night, so you'll get to run.
Okay.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn to closed session?
What day of the week is that?
Right.
Thursday, should be Thursday. Do we have other people?
Adjourn to closed session pursuant of RSMO 610.
I'm pretty sure I won't be here.
Huh? Should I be reading?
Well, you should be, but hold on, let's make sure it's just the two of us that are gone. Anybody else gone?
I don't know for sure what time we're playing lands, but I'm coming back on Thursday, but I don't know if I'll.
Okay, but it's just the two of us, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay, proceed.
Good. All right, adjourn to closed session. I move we adjourn to closed session pursuant of RSMO 610.021 ASD subsections 13, relevant personal, the identifiable employment information, and 3, personnel actions.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, Brad?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Naomi?
Yes.